The Urmah healed me. Hello again. Thank you for being here with me once more. I hope you are very well today. I am Marie. Hello, welcome to my channel. This information can be seen as science fiction, or as the viewer sees best, and I post it for entertainment purposes only. Still, I take my information very seriously, and for whoever has eyes to see. I wrote this in the late morning and afternoon of October 15th, 2024, and I revised it for publishing on the morning of November 1st, 2024. I have decided not to include any images in this video, because there is nothing I can share that can even remotely resemble what I saw. I decided to trust my descriptive writing power, as it is much better to have my audience use their imagination, as it would be a much more accurate representation than any images I could add, which would only act in detriment to my carefully written text and to my best descriptive efforts. The Urmah are an incredibly impressive and overwhelming species. No lame and silly AI images can do them justice. As most of you know, my health has been failing lately. It hasn't improved, and perhaps it is getting worse, as I also have other issues which may or may not be connected to my diagnosed type 1 diabetes, which this ship's surgeon, Sane Trey, is treating with a dry med pod. It looks like my diabetes and my other issues have a strong etheric component to them, I mean as coming from the side of the spirits, like some elaborate astral attack. I say this fully knowing that, in the end, all illnesses come from or are generated on the astral side of things, but these illnesses I am going through are starting to look a lot more like a foreign-generated astral attack. In general, I am feeling very weak, and with constant fatigue. This morning, October 15th, early while I was starting my day, I got a call from the bridge of this starship, Taygeteanos. It was the Urmah King Ruah who wanted to talk to me. He said that as he is well aware of the health problems I am going through, and knowing that they very probably have an astral genesis, he invited me to an Urmah healing procedure, on board his starship, the Avian One. He assured me that no harm would be done to me as it was not a traditional medical procedure, and that at a minimum, I would feel much better after it, but the Urmah intended to completely cleanse me from any astral attachments which could be harming me. But I would have to be there with them, in their real company, and not using any technological device such as remote presence. As the Urmah are the Taygeteanos' closest allies, I accepted, even knowing that they are tremendously overwhelming to be with. Ruah said that he would be sending a shuttle over to fetch me, with my well-known, tiger friend, Ari Shah, on board, to guide me. So I informed my Taygetan crew and friends, and then I went to my room and I prepared for my short trip to the Urmah ship. I put on a simple, plain white medium-length dress, with low-heel girly shoes, my violet cape, and my little diadem crown. Soon after, a large Urmah, piano black and golden shuttlecraft approached Taygeteanos, and asked for landing permission in the main hangar. By then I was already in the hangar with my 4 Shinanim and Hashmalim guards in full gear and gala uniforms, capes, armor, and all. The hangar doors opened and the very large, black and golden Urmah shuttle flew in and turned around, with its engines whining and hissing. Then it dropped its landing gear as it descended to the deck, and then opened its front ramp. Ari and 2 lion guards stepped down, also in full feline gala gear, following strict protocol. I walked up to Ari, greeted him and gave him a big hug. It felt as if I was embracing a huge warm pillar covered in a tiger color, striped carpet, while his 2 huge guards awaited some steps back. Ari then asked me to please follow him, but as I walked with him towards his shuttle he suddenly turned around to face my 4 guards. He lifted his enormous paw and said, No. He then said in his deep voice that sounded like thunder. This healing is only for Marie, and she must come alone, you cannot follow. My guards started to explain that they could not leave their queen alone and that would be extremely against protocol. The queen must never be left alone. Ari responded with a deep growl. Not this time, you cannot follow, you must trust us, you know us, and you know we couldn't possibly be more loyal. You must let her come with us alone, or she may not survive what is ailing her. I turned around, and calmly ordered my guards to step down, telling them that I would be fine. My 4 guards rested their automatic assault rifles' butts on the floor, as Ari asked me to take his hand. But his hand was so large that all I could take with my hand was one single of his striped fingers. I felt so small next to Ari, who is over 3 meters tall. We walked into the huge shuttle, which was very dark inside, and he sat me on an Urmah seat, which made me feel as if I were a 3-year-old, sitting in my mother's car with no baby seat, even more so as my feet were far from reaching the ground. I also found it quite uncomfortable as there was a large hole in the back of the seat, and I felt I was going to fall through it. It is meant so a large cat can accommodate its tail. I cannot deny that at this point I started to feel fear, especially as the shuttle took off and exited Sardiklea. I looked out the long window of the Urmah shuttle and saw my white ship, the Sardiklea, and its 2 destroyer escorts getting smaller and smaller, looking so insignificant, until all I could see of them were their occasional strobe lights against the darkness of space. Less than 10 minutes later, the majestic Urmah flagship, Avian 1, appeared, and got larger and larger in front of us as we approached. As we got a lot closer and next to the Urmah flagship, all I could see was an immense wall of silver and grey polymorphic titanium, extending indefinitely in every direction I could see. Its huge hangar doors at its side slid open and our black shuttle flew in. As soon as it landed, I climbed off the huge seat, jumped onto the floor, and walked with Ari down the ramp holding his little finger. This was the very first time I was on an Urmah starship ever, and with no remote presence technology. Even the air felt different, it felt heavier to breathe, and it smelled like cat. Cats don't smell, it's a difficult odor to describe, it is simply something that tells you that there are cats around you. As we walked down, I could see King Rua, the white lion, in person, waiting for me, just some meters away. He also had 2 other unknown lions on each side, and a huge white tiger dressed in silver armor and a white robe with golden edges. This huge white tiger was incredibly impressive as he is the biggest and tallest, most intimidating Urmah I have ever seen. He looked mature, seasoned, and experienced, simply towering above me at nearly 3.5 meters tall, and incredibly muscular. I couldn't even maintain eye contact with him, because of his powerful facial expression, even more so as he had one yellow eye and the other light blue, adding to his impressive stance. Only several days after my strong experience with them, did I learn that he was no other than the much feared and respected, legendary Urmah General, Koakas, King Rua's Minister of Defense, and head of his armed forces. Just looking at these huge cats is enough to make your knees tremble and fail, even knowing that they are friendly. No wonder why no one wants to mess with them. I looked around and everything was so incredibly large, no words suffice, and so elaborate, so ornamented. Everything had feline images sculpted on them. Even the simple stairways made of metal in the hangar had lines of paws and cat faces, and everything was ornamented with tiger stripes or leopard spots. The sides of the walls have a metal stripe in the center with engraved paw prints, surrounding feline skulls, and tiger stripes. Everything there is so incredibly big. I cannot deny that I started to shake in fear, and started to feel very cold, even though all their faces were so kind and loving. I felt so incredibly harmless and small next to them all. I walked with them to an elevator, which started to move us down well into the innards of one of the most powerful Urmah starships ever made, and their flagship. The elevator was black, with ornamented golden edges, and when it stopped, we walked down a corridor, which once more impressed me because of its incredibly large scale, and with ornaments all over the place, where even the lights on each side of it emulated torches and fire. The corridor had rounded walls with curved golden pillars on each side, giving me the impression of walking down a rib cage. But I felt that the whole place was built to their scale, not to mine, so I felt so incredibly small there, and I insist, by then I was very scared, and wanted to run away, but where to? The passageway opened into a very large dark, oval hall, with a few steps downwards. Its many pillars were shaped like elongated cats, with feline paws at the bottom, and their head above arching as the ceiling curved, all in gold, with a black velvet background covering the walls. At the back of that very large hall, there was a gigantic dark steel-colored statue of an Urmah king sitting on his throne. The statue alone must have been over 12 meters tall, and it was much worse than impressive, even more so in that uniform dark metal color. Then Ari and Rua turned around and told me to relax and not to be afraid, in beautiful deep loving feline voices. I stood there for a few moments, and suddenly the floor opened and a large black stone monolith started to emerge from it, with a sound like someone dragging a large rock through metal. 2 female tigers came out from behind the velvet between the elongated cat pillars, with a violet mat and 2 purple cushions, which they carefully placed over the rectangular monolith rock, and then they moved away walking backwards. I was then asked to lie down on the monolith, which I did while I shook with intense fear, feeling that I should have never accepted all this, and also feeling that this might be my end. I lay down on the monolith face up, with my head on the cushions, when King Rua on one side and Ari on the other stepped up to me and touched my head, and they calmly said that I should not worry, that I was perfectly safe there with them, and that in fact, I had never been safer, whatever that meant. "Do not fear," Rua said, "and simply enjoy the ride." The 2 large cats stepped away like 1 meter, and at the same time out from in between the golden elongated cat pillars, more lions and tigers dressed in gala armor and golden war masks walked up to me, alternating, 1 tiger and then 1 lion, and so on. They surrounded me forming a circle around the monolith, while another set of lions and tigers walked into the room, also from in between the elongated cat pillars, wearing large war drums, which they started to beat and beat with impressive core-shaking strength, while the lights dimmed into total darkness. I was there shaking without being able to see anything when I heard the powerful war drums suddenly stop with a thump. Then golden light started to flood the room from the monolith. The golden light was coming from the monolith under me. I could see that I was surrounded by at least 30 immense male Urmah lions and tigers all looking at me. The closest circle took 1 step towards me, and they extended their immense paws over me. I could feel their overwhelming telepathic message, which was that I should not worry, that I must shed all my fear and trust them. Hard to do as I felt like an infinitely frail little creature, surrounded by countless alpha predators, and who knows where, well inside their starship's innards. All the Urmah who were closest to me took out a scepter. They all had an identical one. It was long and made of solid gold, and it was also shaped like an elongated cat, with 4 paws at the bottom and a roaring lion's head at the top. They presented them to me, or me to the scepters, better said, as if they wanted the lions at the top of the scepters to look at me, and then they moved them away and all started to thump the floor with it, while they started to chant something in ancient Urmah language, with their deep thunder voices. They thumped the scepter and turned it around, and then they thumped it again and turned it around once more, and it is there where I noticed that at the back of the scepter's lion's head, there was the face of a lion's skull. They continued chanting and humming with their deep voices in the Urmah language, while the drums started thumping again, with a beautiful, but intimidating deep war rhythm. They continued to thump the scepters on the floor and to turn them around each time, so one time the live roaring lion faced me, and the next it was the lion's skull which did. It represented the duality of life and death, I suppose. Then the golden light dimmed a bit, and the drums stopped. The whole room started to fill up with a white mist, and I did not know where it was coming from. Then Ruah the Urmah king started to roar with all his might, and then he was immediately followed by all the other lions and tigers in the room, all of them roaring with all their might, forming an ultra-impressive and intimidating feline power sound that echoed in the large oval chamber. Then Ruah, the king, strongly roared 3 consecutive times, and all the others stopped, and silence returned to the chamber. And then I started to feel a calming vibration sensation, very nice, and I thought those were healing frequencies coming from the sort of monolith machine I was lying on, but I was wrong. It suddenly came to me that the super pleasant vibration that was surrounding me was coming from the Urmah cats themselves, not from a machine. They were all purring, or humming so deeply it was like purring, which I do not know if there is any difference. And I was suddenly invaded, completely overwhelmed by all kinds of emotions, and I started to cry and cry, and cry, with my eyes flowing with tears, as I had not cried for years and years. I closed my eyes at the vibration which I felt was emotionally cleansing me, and then when I opened them, or so I thought, I was alone and upright, standing on my bare feet, on a cold white floor with no features in it. I was alone and in total silence. A silence so deep it made me question my own existence, as it was absolute and unnatural. I felt that I was standing there in the middle of the great nothing. I looked around and I couldn't see anything, as all there was white surrounding me, everything was solid white. I turned around several times, trying to decide where I was, and it was here that I noticed that my hair and my dress behaved as if underwater, like in zero gravity, as they flowed with my movement, almost in slow motion. I looked around to try to see where I was again, with a bit of a fright this time, but I still couldn't see anything. I was in a place like no other, if this was even a place. All I could see that was not part of me was the floor and only the one which directly surrounded my bare feet, nothing else, and it looked like uneven opaque ice. And then I wondered what had happened to my shoes. Before I could start to worry about my strange whereabouts, I noticed a pale electric blue light in the distance that was progressively getting stronger and stronger. This little diffused dot of light was growing, and it was the only thing that was not me or the small portion of the floor around my bare feet. All my attention was focused on that light that was slowly getting stronger, and it was in motion as well. Then I started to see a distorted luminous blue figure moving towards me, but I felt no fear, even though I couldn't make out its real shape. It was distorted as if by a mirage inside a dense mist, and all the light where I was appeared to be coming from that creature now, as the total whiteness turned absolute black, except for the blue light figure. Then I felt like I was floating in the air, I could no longer feel the floor under me. I looked down and all I could see was my feet being illuminated by the strange electric blue figure. And then, suddenly, the creature finally arrived where I was. It was an immense luminous blue lion, and its mane was made of blue flames, had piercing white eyes, and it moved with a lot of agility and grace as if it were underwater. I stood there floating, totally paralyzed, yet I could not decide whether I felt fear or not. It moved around me several times, clearly inspecting who and what I was. I have never felt so observed in all my existence, as all the creature's attention was on me. It continued to inspect every part of me with its piercing white eyes, from my toes and hands to my hair, and with the utmost nerve-wracking attention. Then it came to me, face to face. The creature took my little head in between his huge luminous paws, and he moved up to me in silence, facing me directly and at a very short distance. His expression was calm and loving, extremely reassuring, and I started to shiver and cry again, violently. I felt his message, and it was that I should cry all I wanted, as all I was doing was cleansing repressed emotions that were damaging me. He talked to me telepathically, yet I must use words here. He said, "Interesting, very interesting to see an Urmah feline soul living in a frail and tiny Lyrian female body full of problems. What are you doing in there? Tigress, it looks like you certainly wanted an incarnation challenge, but you didn't have to make it so difficult on yourself. You were brought here because you are family, and we take care of our own, even at a spirit level. You are still, and always will be an Urmah, and you will eventually come back to us in shape, which is your true one, once your complicated life mission is accomplished." Then I felt his next mental message clearly. He said that I would be perfectly okay, that it was not yet my time to remain in the world of the spirits, and that I would be a successful queen, as I would reign Taygeta as long as I would live, and until I died grandmother. Then he continued, inspecting me. "It appears that you have a strong etherical attachment to the idea that you lost your life on Earth, that all that you would live there was cut short, so you are harboring a lot of repressed sadness and even anger. Your attachment to the life you never could have on Earth makes the troubles you would experience there filter and cross over from the timelines where you did succeed to live on Earth longer, to your present life here. In other words, your ailments are not yours, they belong to other versions of you, who are not you, and to events and situations that you did not live." The blue lion continued, "You should move away from the idea that your life on Earth would have been better, more peaceful, and easier than the life you have today, as your life mission was never to be on Earth for long, it always was meant to be lived here. You are also full of resentment because you lost your mother, and you deeply blame yourself, but things happened as they did for a reason, and things couldn't have happened any other way. You should move away from all those thoughts and attachments, now that I just cut all your attachment cords to harmful things, and events coming from other timelines." The blue lion continued telepathically, "What happens in other timelines is not of your concern. Do not carry weights that do not belong to you." I then recognized who he was. He was the same lion as the gigantic dark metal sculpture in the center of the oval Urmah room I was in, if I was indeed still there, as I couldn't see anything but the magnificent blue light lion with his mane on fire. He must be the spirit of an ancient Urmah king. Who is this etheric blue lion? I asked myself as I continued to cry, also starting to feel that the cosmic cat was indeed a real entity after all. And I can't stop crying and crying while I write these words. As I briefly closed my eyes while crying, I did not know where the blue lion with his mane on fire went, as I was alone there again, and on the floor, and again I couldn't see anything around me, nothing. I was completely surrounded by misty white light, and I noticed that even my dress moved as if I was underwater again, but I could breathe. And I stood there in complete silence, while I turned around to try to see where I was, when I noticed a yellow house cat some meters away from me, one of those classic orange, striped cats. The cat was resting on his belly, with his front paws curled inwards, and looking directly at me. I said, "Hello, little kitty," and he answered with a little meow, opening his little pink mouth. I walked towards the yellow cat, and he got up and moved away from me just a bit, so that I couldn't touch him, and turned around to see me once more. I walked towards the orange cat again, and he started to walk away with his tail upright, making a hook as all cats do, and then he turned around to see if I was following him. Okay, I got it, he wanted me to follow him, and so I did. I started to walk with the cat, some 2 or 3 meters behind him, and then the white light slowly started to clear, and then suddenly I could start to see where I was again. The mist started to clear to reveal that I was lying down on a medical bed in Taygeteanos, in the recovery room once more, looking at the stale white and boring box-like room in the infirmary, and at its rectangular air vents, so unlike the Urmah. I heard an electronic beeping sound and I realized I was back on my ship, and that sound was alerting everyone else that I had awakened. I don't know what happened and what to make out of this, as I have not talked to the Urmah since this event, but of course, it just happened. I am deeply shaken and I can't stop crying. I feel this was life-changing for me, even when I thought I knew the astral. I don't know who or what that blue lion in flames is, but it does look like I came, face to face, directly with the cosmic cat. I do not know. I feel with no energy and drained, especially emotionally. I do not know what I went through. So many questions, so few answers. All I was told was that the Urmah had returned my unconscious body to the Taygeteanos after the, whatever that was, had finished, and they said that I should be allowed to sleep as much as I needed, and that I would wake up, okay. I wanted several days to pass before writing this video with the aftermath and the conclusions to my strong experience with the Urmah on the early morning of the 15th of October, 2024. It has been exactly 22 days now, and I think it has been more than enough time to draw some conclusions. This strong, life-changing experience I had with the Urmah is not for everyone, so I was quite reluctant to publish it, at least until the experience itself matured in my mind and my persona. I had to think about the consequences of publishing such a thing, but anyhow, this is not a normal YouTube channel. This is also why so many days passed between the day of my experience, October 15th, and the day I published the videos about it. Although for humans on Earth, what the Urmah did to me was a ritual, I strongly disagree with that word as I see it charged with terrible cabal things, or at least with summoning things that are not good. Let's leave it there. Yet there isn't any other word on Earth to describe what went on there, I know. The Urmah are not Lyrian, they are feline, and therefore their concept of reality differs a lot from ours, even more so from one of Earth's humans. Their perception range of their everyday reality, as they perceive it with their normal bodily senses, is much broader, meaning that it includes aspects which we consider to belong to astral realms, yet for them, those aspects are just more normal objective hard reality. This means that how we define the world of the living as Lyrians differs a lot from how the Urmah would describe it, and we only have some aspects of it which overlap and where we agree, even as two different species. From our Lyrian understanding and point of view, the Urmah are far more spiritual and etherical, physically living, at least partially, in what we call the world of the spirits, which is only more everyday life for them. One thing that characterizes them a lot is that you almost cannot ask them for help, they have to come to you, especially with these kinds of things. I did not ask for help, I was invited by them, perhaps because it was in their best interest that I should heal from what was ailing me. As they said, I am supposed to be family, because I am an Urmah soul in a Lyrian body, which is something I knew well before this incident. I am an Urmah starseed in a Taygetan, Lyrian body, and this brings me to say something important. Starseeds are not something that happens only on Earth, as it is part of the natural immigration of souls having experience after experience in countless civilizations and genetic races all over the universe. Yet today, I am Lyrian, I am human, and I have no problem with that. I am happy in this skin, except for the collection of ailments I have been accumulating, but that is another thing. It looks like the Urmah took me into some sort of summoning chamber where they talk to their spirit guides, or however they want to call them. They managed to get me into a strong trance they caused using their natural sounds. This means they did not use any type of technology, they did it as they have for thousands of years, or perhaps even more, the old way, the natural way. I now believe that what I saw in that trance was at least partially my interpretation of that being. For example, as one of my friends pointed out, the etheric lion was electric blue, which happens to be my favorite color. Although I don't really have a favorite color, as it depends on what object, thing, creature, or whatever it is on, so I love them all, and they are all complementary in my mind. Then the interpretation and the very name I used over and over, the cosmic cat, is again mine, as I love the concept, and for me, that what I saw while in the astral was indeed a cosmic cat, or the cosmic cat, although the Urmah do not have such a concept. It looks like the Urmah spirit opened my unconscious, read it all, and exposed it to me. And what it made me see is quite within the lines of how diabetes is interpreted esoterically on Earth, and it is as a strong guilt that manifests an incapability to enjoy the good things of life. A strong feeling that I do not deserve to fully enjoy the sweetness of life, which translates to far more things than only the inability to eat candy. In my case, it came from the strong guilt complex I was feeling for having lost my mother, and my life on Earth which I was enjoying, because I felt that I had done wrong, and that I had made a horrible mistake. And I was indeed enjoying life on Earth. I can see this through the several hundreds of photographs I still have, where I am always smiling and laughing, with my mom never far from me. About the horrible mistake I made, for those who don't know what I am talking about, in a few words, I was stupid enough to play the hero when I was 13 years old, and take a starship to time jump irresponsibly, as I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was how to push those buttons I had seen my mother flip before, so basically I got lost and I never again saw my mother and my world. The encounter with the Urmah spirit guide, with what I will always call the cosmic cat, made me understand the genesis of my health problem, as it exposed in detail what was in my unconscious mind. 22 days after this incident with the cosmic cat, my type 1 diabetes is gone, as if it had never existed, to the point where I can binge on chocolate and my blood sugar returns to normal a couple of hours later. Yet I am fully conscious of how cells work and how damaging sugar is for them. I am also quite conscious that cells simply get tired of producing hormones when abused, in this case, insulin. I am very thankful to this ship's surgeon, Sene Trey, and to Kara and Anna, our other 2 medical doctors, for having tried so hard to fix me as best as they could. They placed me inside Taygetan medical dry pods, and filled me intravenously with stem cells, mother cells, to heal my pancreas, and I endured torture for several weeks, where I was constantly being pricked and tested, as well as having intravenous serum and whatever else constantly in my arms. After all that effort, and all that torture, they could not heal me, perhaps because the psychological and etheric component that was manifesting my problem was too strong. In this case, I did require the intervention of the Urmah. No matter how advanced medical technology may be, it will never be able to heal anyone, if the true cause of the illness is on the side of the spirits, from where the mind is constantly manifesting and re-manifesting it. This makes me see that it might be a good idea to make a video comparing how medicine is seen from the Earth-human point of view, the Taygetan one, and finally, the one of the Urmah, as they are all quite different. Now here I must point out that the Urmah healed me from my horrible type 1 diabetes, yet they did not from all the other barrage of other things I was carrying along, including the fungus-based lung infection which I am still suffering, as well as other crew members who were also strongly affected by it, like DK and little Yazhi. We cannot simply ask the Urmah to cure us from this as well, because as I said above, they have to offer this sort of help, and in this case of an infection, however bothersome and dangerous it may be, it is a foreign pathogen invasion, so I guess it is more physical and easier to resolve with medical technology. I can see with the Urmah that you can never order a cat to do anything. The feline must want to cooperate, and this goes for big and small ones. In conclusion, I love what the Urmah did for me, and how they healed me, and I will be eternally grateful to them. It was a life-changing experience simply to have been in their presence, there with them, in their ship. It is very different from ours, as it reflects their culture and mentality, where we can see that everything is cat for them, everything has to do with them, and is always centered in them, as an extremely proud alpha species. I see nothing wrong with that. I do not see them as egocentric, as they are also so extroverted and empathic with all others. They are so proud and loving that it rubs off onto everyone else which they call their friends. I guess that if you are a 3-meter tall lion or tiger, and a member of a dominant interstellar race, it is easy to have a well-nourished and healthy ego self. That's understandable. Talking about the procedure they performed on me, as you can see I have a resistance to call it a ritual. Notice that it was performed by lions and tigers exclusively. It was a power demonstration, where they wanted, or needed the two biggest and strongest Urmah subraces to be there. Smaller Urmah subraces, such as panthers and leopards among others, were missing and nowhere to be seen. I missed seeing little Kirai Kaikotsa, the young leopard communications cadet we all know from his jokes, like placing his paw in front of the camera of whoever is talking. I always have a lot of fun placing a leopard paw in front of Ari's face or mine in my videos, as Kirai Kaikotsa does that in real life when I talk to Ari, who has a lot of patience with him. Another noticeable thing is that the performers were all male, again demonstrating the peak strength and power of the Urmah race and culture. And at the very end, I do not know who the little orange kitty was, but I interpret him as a guide that was to take me out of the trance, and back into the material world as I know it. And as a last comment, the Urmah stayed with my shoes, they did not return them with me, and I feel somewhat shy to ask for them back, if they still exist. I don't know if they simply missed them, or they are keeping them as souvenirs, I do not know. This will be all for today. As always, thank you for watching my video, and for liking, sharing, and subscribing for more. It helps this channel grow a lot. And I hope to see you here next time. With much love and appreciation, your friend, Marie Swaruu.